Dr. Mel, and this is Dr. Mel's message. Today I have a fabulous author all the way across the pond if you're here in the United States, and if you're over there, well, guess what? I'm across the pond. But needless to say, one thing I love about this author, I've had the privilege of working with him and publishing his book for him, and the book is called United States of Anger. And let me tell you, when I first even took a glimpse of this book, I knew it was something special, and so is the author. So I want to introduce to you, without hesitation, Hassan Ali Imam. Welcome, Hassan.
It's Hassan.
Hassan. I'll get Hassan. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Mel. Well, it's good evening from here, but certainly good afternoon to you and folks in America.
What made you want to write this book?
Well, I must say it must have happened by accident. I was in the middle of writing an article criticizing the Democrats. This is way back in May, and it would have been a fairly long article. And I had a small section on Linda Sarsour and her activism in America, and a few issues actually disagreed with her. But then after the tragic murder of George Floyd, and when the ensuing protests took hold in America, in Britain here, and in many places around the world, I was very, very upset and very angry with what happened. And that should have been a time for unity everywhere, not division. So as the protests had ensued, and I've been tracking Linda Sarsour, and the reason why I just took an interest in her, because in the Muslim community, which is where I'm from, that's my community, she is very, very well known. And as the protests unfolded, I could see that there were a lot of things that were happening that she was saying, which really contradicted the values of our religion, and certainly the values of conservatism. She's on the left and I'm on the right. So what was meant to be a very small section on Linda Sarsour just expanded and expanded and expanded, and it turned out to be a very long open letter. Now, during the ensuing protests over the subsequent few weeks, a lot of my friends were saying, well, you should write a book about it. So I thought, okay, well, let me convert this into a book. So a large proportion of the book is actually the open letter to Linda Sarsour. And I've also incorporated quite a few articles into the book. So you could say, I think I had a moment of inspiration over the last few months.
Well, we're going to get into it, but first I want to show everybody just a cover reveal trailer of your book so they can see what we're even talking about. Someone that is in the UK write on American politics? So let's start with that elephant in the room real quick.
Yes, of course. And I think let me take that elephant back to 1988, when I first became aware of American politics, and I took an active interest. And I do remember the election contest between George Bush and Michael Dukakis, and the way they campaigned and the debates. I think this was something that's certainly needed in the UK, the presidential debates, being able to cross-examine them. So I've taken an active interest in American politics for a very long time. Now, in terms of why did I write the book specifically about what's happening in America, you see, Dr. Mel, I think that the protests that ensued and the issue of racism is a universal debate. And as you will be aware, when the protests took hold in America, it just didn't contain itself in America. It spread right throughout the world, through many countries. And there were protests here in the UK. Yeah, very rapidly, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was faster than coronavirus. But I think it certainly took hold in the UK, and we have the classic cases of statues being knocked down as well. So I think everyone has a stake in this debate, and that's why I wrote the book, because I feel very strongly with things that have happened. Quite a few things I do agree with, but other things I really disagreed with, and calling out not just Linda Sarsour, but also her comrades, her socialist comrades. And I think I'm just trying to open the eyes of the Muslim communities in the UK and America, where we seem to have flirted with socialist activism. So it's really trying to disrupt that.
When it boils down to it, and you speak, I mean, like I said, I had the honor of editing this book and publishing it, but when you start speaking on racism, I mean, you don't just skirt around the issue. You nail it. In your opinion,
Absolutely.
yeah, in your opinion, why do you think it is so systemic?
Sorry, Dr. Mel, why do I think it's systemic?
Yeah, racism. Why is it so systemic in our universe right now? And not just America. I mean, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, and I think it's a paradox. Racism is a paradox. It divides people. It pits one race against the other, one nationality against another, but it is a universal concept. That's where the paradox is. And I think as long as we divide ourselves according to our color, according to our ethnicities, then we're not going to look at mankind as a whole. And that's why in the book I do quote a particular verse from the Quran. It's actually one of my favorite verses, and I quoted this at our Conservative Party conference a good few years ago after the 9/11 attacks, which talks about the unity of mankind, and the reason why the good Lord divided us into nations is so that we can respect each other and unite, based on our differences to a common brotherhood. And from a religious point of view, what makes us good is not our color, it's not our culture, it's whether we are good people or not in the eyes of God.
That's interesting. What do you think we as Americans should be looking for right now? We're weeks away from our presidential election. And I mean, I don't know where you get your news, but over here we have, Fox and CNN and ABC and this channel and this podcast, and you name it, we
Yes.
have it, And so I find it interesting that, like yourself over in the UK, what do you hear about our elections?
Well, my diet, or our diet here in the UK, our diet of Americana, is actually CNN. We used to have Fox News a good few years ago, but then when Rupert Murdoch sold Sky, then Fox News was no longer available. So, I was well aware, and Fox News has never hid this fact that they are very biased towards the Republicans, Conservatives, and in many cases Trump. So they've never hidden that fact. But since it was taken off air in the UK, the news information I get is actually from CNN mainly. And we do get the odd broadcast from C-SPAN on Sundays for 3 hours. It's discussing various issues. So it's really CNN. So we don't have really much, we're not as lucky as you are. We have a variety of American news channels. So we only have CNN. And if I do want to listen to other opinions, then I'll just have to go online, look at some of the clips from Fox News or CNBC or ABC. So it is largely CNN. And I must say, I have been a big fan of CNN, actually, over the last decade or so. But very recently, I've noticed that the journalism has actually changed. I don't know if you agree with this, Dr. Mel, or not, or your listeners. But journalism is about being objective and cross-examining both sides, challenging both sides. What I've noticed, I don't know if it's me, but CNN are overtly very anti-Trump, we're pro-Biden, And I just couldn't work this out. Anything that Trump does wrong, and he does plenty wrong, that's blown up and that's highlighted, and the the wrong things that Biden has done, Vice President Biden, is actually hidden. And I do reflect some of that in my book, and I question and challenge some of the people on the left, those who are liberals, those who've been very active, especially 2 years ago during the Brett Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford hearings, who are silent now, which is in relation to Biden and Tara Reade. So it's really perplexing what's happening in terms of American journalism.
Yeah, I get confused a lot. Not in a sense that I don't know which way to make my mind, but my confusion comes from that if one person, I'm gonna leave out names for now, if one person does something, it's all over the news. And if a different person does it, it's not all over the news. And then there's always that twist and spin. That's the confusing and frustrating part to me. And I am finding, I do interviews a lot. You just asked me before this. I've done hundreds of interviews with people from all over the world, and I love that. And if you read my blog and listen to this, I don't tell people what side I'm on. And even like, if you recall, I even told you with your book, I said, I think you now need to turn around and write one on such and such candidate. And the reason why I said that, as a publisher, I get submitted manuscripts constantly. And if I say I got 100 on Trump and 0 on Biden, that doesn't seem to be very equal, does it?
Absolutely. And I don't know whether it was you, Dr. Mel, or someone else told me that there are actually no books on Biden.
That's what I'm saying. There's none. And it's like, okay, how can I make an educated opinion if I can only read one about one candidate as an American about to vote? Now, fortunately, in your book, you do address Biden, you address Obama, you address Bush. I mean, you, like I said, you don't leave anything out. And it's not that you're trying to tell Americans what to think or what to do. No, you challenge the way you're thinking and viewing certain paradigms and relationships, not only within the United States, but across the ocean. So you challenge the way of thinking, like, and I really respected you for that. You weren't saying you're going to go vote this way, go vote this way. If you don't, you're a fool, you're an idiot. There's a lot of those out there. But what you said, look, have you even thought, this is what happened. Here are the facts. Now weigh them.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing I think is brilliant about United States of Anger that you wrote. And it really is brilliant in that way.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mel. I appreciate that.
And I think editor Kathy, she was like, I think this needs to be read by every college student and high school senior right now. I said, well, let's not limit it there. I said, just in general, this book needs to be read by everybody before they vote.
Sure, absolutely. I'm with you, Dr. Mel. And as you said quite rightly, it's not for me as a British-Bangladeshi to tell Americans how to vote. I mean, we lost the war, what was it, 400 years ago?
Yeah.
I think,
well, look, we're not fighting. You and I aren't fighting, we're good.
Yeah, well, we're good. And I think everywhere in America should be good in terms of the level of debate and the, and the divisiveness which I've seen, which is very, very unfortunate. And I think there should be more dialogue, and that's what I'm trying to do with this book, because this is just not a book which is polemical against socialism or Linda Sarsour or socialist activism. No. It's a precursor to a dialogue, and I hope there will be a dialogue that will continue.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It is a precursor to dialogue on what is happening, not just in America, but politically, globally.
Yes.
And if people would actually look and buy this book, and I encourage everyone to go buy United States of Anger. I'm telling you, it is an incredible book, and not just because I'm interviewing the author.
Sure.
But it does open dialogue, and I've seen it open dialogue. You know, I had, like I said, my associate editor, Kathy, she had a part in editing it too, you know, because, you know, we tag team a lot. And we had many discussions. And it wasn't about editing. It was about, hey, what did you think about such and such, you know? And it even opened dialogue between us. And we've known each other for 14 years. And then I have a very liberal relative. And it's like, you've got to read this book. I'd like your take on it. And they're like, you've got something here after they read it. And they're like, I never really looked at it. So I think that's what your book will do for people. It's not going to tell them, oh, if you do this, you're going to be a socialist, or you're going to be a racist, or you're going to be this, or you're going to be that, or you're no longer Democrat, and you're no longer a Republican, and you're not, you know, but that's not what this book is about at all.
Absolutely, Dr. Mal, and it's trying to open a dialogue either in America or across the pond here in the UK. Now, I draw my experience actually from my time about a decade ago when I stood for Parliament here in the UK as a Conservative candidate. And also about 2 decades ago, I think, when I was at university, I was exposed to various political philosophies, and I have great respect for people who have socialist thinking, or who hold socialist views, and I've debated with them whether feminists are in a pro choice for abortion, because I'm ardently pro-life. But we've been in situations, we've always been in a good place when we've engaged on some really hot potato issues. And I think that's the way forward, because what's the worst thing that can happen? We can agree to disagree and be done with it.
I've always said that. I mean, that's how my mama actually raised us. You know, you don't have to agree with everybody, but you can agree to disagree. And that doesn't mean, you know, what's so crazy, honestly, what's going on right now? There are people like on Facebook that if you say one thing against their candidate, they defriend you. And you're like, what? You know, what happened to your own freedom of speech there? You know, you know, there's households that vote Democrat in America, and their husband will turn around and vote Republican, and vice versa. So they're going to get a divorce now because, whoa, they're not lining up. I don't think so. But I think when people really will look at what you're talking about and depolarizing conversations, where you don't get into this, I hate you, you're a racist, you know, that's got to stop. And I asked you earlier, you know, what do you think that can be done about the systemic racism worldwide? And a lot of it, I really believe, and you hardly ever hear me, even in my blog, tell you my own political views and how I feel about things like this. But I honestly think that the way to overcome the systemic racism is through open dialogue without the fear of being attacked. We're not going to get anywhere without that.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, as well as engaging with socialists, I've engaged with the far right, you know, with people who claim to be white supremacists, you know, on the other side of the political spectrum. And in fact, I do remember there was the leader of the British Nationalist Party, which is a white supremacy racist party, who appeared on a BBC program known as Question Time way back in 2009. And there was some controversy around it, whether he should have been invited or not. And I took the view that people like him should get some airspace so that views such as his can be exposed after cross-examination. And I actually attended that particular event on BBC Question Time. I did get to ask him a question. And after that event, and after cross-examination by the panel, his reputation actually plummeted. And you will also recall last year, unfortunately, when Brendan Tarrant, the white supremacy terrorist, shot Muslims in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I was able to get hold of his great replacement manifesto before it was banned online, and I certainly agree with the banning. But I went through word for word, page after page, and I actually came out with a 3-hour video responding to every single argument he has raised, justifying his actions. Obviously, I'm not going to turn him, but I can reach out to his followers. And, and with this book, that's essentially what I'm trying to do. I know the socialist way of thinking. I know how many socialists think. Linda Sarsour is not going to respond to my arguments, because why would she want to publicize, give me publicity or the book publicity?
Oh, you know what? If she wants to respond, she can come right on here.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and you know what? I'll interview her by herself, and I'll be my friendly grandma self like I am. And if you two want to battle it out, I'll be the moderator.
Oh, well, I accept your invitation. Absolutely.
So if she, if she wants to come, I will give her equal time, no problem, and I will moderate between you two, because I think that something needs to be said about this. And yes, I can be very neutral.
Absolutely. I would not ask for anything else. But if she doesn't come on, at least I'm trying to reach out to her supporters, which are Muslims or socialists, activists, etc. So, this book is on a journey. Let's see where this journey ends up.
Well, it's quite a journey, actually. And I know that even in your Amazon description, by the way, I can show that to people real quick. Even in your Amazon description, you're talking about the far left, but if you look at the opening one where it says this time of the book is detox for the mind through depolarization of conservatism, or conversation, I'm sorry. Now, what I liked, though, which I may or may not agree with, this book is also a wake-up call for Muslims who have succumbed to temptations of socialist activism. Now, why is it just a wake up for Muslims? There are people all sorts of religions. You see what I'm saying? That's the part I disagree with. Is it because you're Muslim?
Well, I think it's in the context of Muslim activism that Linda Sarsour represents, and she's very, very well known in the Muslim community in America, in Britain, and around the world. She's of Palestinian origin, so the Palestinian-Israeli issue is a very, very big issue. She's been a huge critic of Israeli foreign policy, although remaining silent on atrocities by Hamas. So it's really trying to address that particular crowd. But obviously, as you quite rightly point out, it really should be for everyone. Because I also mentioned in there that with the onslaught of socialism, it's not just an attack on Muslim values. I mean, America was based on Judeo-Christian principles.
Right.
The founding fathers separated from the United Kingdom on the basis of religion, where they believe, and I suppose many Americans would believe, that God's providence does not come through the British royal family. It comes directly to the people. So everyone has a stake in this debate. So I've mentioned, Judeo-Christian values, Muslims, and values espoused by other religions as well. So, they are part of this dialogue too.
Yeah, I just didn't want anybody that's listening to this interview say it's just totally directed at that one community, because to me, I think it's directed at all of us as a whole community, and not subdividing ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah. We don't want to fall into the trap, which I'm certainly accusing them of, which is division. No, it should be unity. Yeah, absolutely, it should be unity.
Even up to the last minute of publication, we're talking like even 2 days before publication, I reached out to you and I asked you to add something, and I want to address this. And we were actually talking about Trump when he was diagnosed with COVID. Now, you and I have not discussed this. I have edited, etc. We put it into the book. But what I'm trying to bring up is, how was that portrayed over in the UK with him and the way he's handling the pandemic, and then him coming down with COVID and still doing some crazy stuff with COVID. How did that play out over there?
I think, well, if we look at the main channels here in the UK, we have the BBC, we have Sky News, and I think the way they were playing it was very similar to how CNN has reported this, which is how President Trump has been very irresponsible in being discharged so early and then holding rallies so quickly and putting the White House staff at risk and the rally supporters as well at risk and not wearing masks. So I think the concept of irresponsibility is linked with Trump when that's portrayed here in the UK.
Now, your prime minister got COVID a couple of months ago, right?
Yes. So early on during lockdown, he did catch the virus, and I think, you know, regardless of what political spectrum people were, you know, regardless of what political spectrum people are on, they all wished Boris Johnson well, and that's what human beings do, you know, regardless of differing beliefs, politics or religion or whatever. He's a human being who is suffering, and you want the best, the very best, you know.
Right.
So we all got together actually, and we wished him well. He did recover, and you know, he's been there, he's done that. He knows what the risk is, and he knows how people do suffer once they're infected. So you're quite right to point out in the book when I talked about the Donald Trump catching the virus, it certainly reminded me of Prime Minister Johnson when he caught the virus a few months ago. He came out of it. Trump, you know, thank God, has come out of it as well, and I'm sure his campaign team will portray him as some sort of hero, a superhero.
Well, here's the dichotomy here, which, and you said it brilliantly. When you said when your Prime Minister Boris got it, everyone wished him well. In America, there was a lot of people who say, well, you got what you deserve, I hope you die. You know, and to me, how can, no matter who it is, it's a human being that you can wish death on somebody. What does that say to you?
Well, it is very unfortunate, and it just shows the toxic level of debate that I've witnessed in America. Now, I have been in touch with some of the socialists in America. I look at their websites, and some of them had wished death on him. It was karma. But other socialists, and certainly liberals, and even Joe Biden, have been magnanimous in wishing Donald Trump well, and that's what you do as a respectful human being. So, yes, I was very sad to hear all these threats, or, you know, there's karma coming round. But again, I was heartened to hear that many Democrats were supportive of Donald Trump, that he recovers soon, so that the real fight will be on November 3rd.
Exactly, and you know, I agree 100% with that. It was refreshing to me to see, you know, even Biden stepping up and wishing Trump well. He even removed his negative campaigns from the air over here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was very respectful at that. So,
oh, that's certainly heartening to hear that.
Yeah, like I said, you don't see all of this. That's why we're kind of having this open dialogue, you know, kind of like you preach in your book. Let's discuss stuff openly and honestly, you know, and I think that's where healing's going to happen worldwide, is when we do take the time out and listen to each other. And I think this book, you know, that you've written, again, it's the United States of Anger, and it's a brilliant book that I personally think everybody just 18 and up needs to read. I really do believe that. You know, I've dabbled in politics all of my life.
Yeah.
I've sat on the city commission for 7 years. I mean, I have done a lot. And at one time, there wasn't a politician that I did not know. And we're talking from a president down, you know, to a local commissioner, you know.
Sure.
Including, we had a small discussion on this, including one of the most famous American white, Klansmen around is David Duke, and he, lives right up the street type of
Yeah.
thing. And which is quite a whole different conversation we can have later. But
well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Dr. Mel, David Duke, because again, it goes to show how much of a media blackout there is. I was under the impression, way back from 2016 up till a month ago, about 3 weeks ago, that Donald Trump did not condemn David Duke or white supremacy. I was under that impression. But then when I actually looked further into what he exactly said about white supremacy, I only found out recently that in 2016, he did actually condemn David Duke, fair and square, and white supremacy a good few times. So
yeah,
why did I only just discover this only about 2 or 3 weeks ago, even though I feel I'm fairly clued up with American politics?
right.
I think there's
You're very well read, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Mel. And I think it's there's a media, I don't know what media are doing, why they're covering up things that Trump have been so explicit in condemning white supremacy and David Duke. But sorry, Dr. Mel, yes, you were saying about David Duke.
But no. I'm glad you went that direction. David Duke ran for our governor here in Louisiana. He ran for it, and he almost won.
Right.
So I'm in the deep South in America. You got to remember that. The
Yes.
deep South. But when we go back to Trump and we go back to Biden, we're going to keep this equal here. They both have said things trying to upset the other side, open up what we call in America a can of worms.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were alluding to, that why didn't you even know that in 2016 that Trump did deny David Duke and said, oh no, but no one's ever speaking of that. They'll take a truth out when they keep asking about something, and then they'll blow it out of proportion.
Yes, it is quite puzzling and very, very interesting. And I don't know if you agree with this, but when Joe Biden said in one of the radio networks that if you cannot decide between Trump and myself or who you're going to vote for, then you ain't black. That to me is a highly racist statement.
Yeah.
Because of the color of his skin, you have to vote Democrat. And Kamala Harris, last year, she was very, very feisty when it came to attacking Biden and his apparent racism in the context of busing. She was really, really forthright, and she was a Rottweiler when she attacked him. But then subsequently in a TV interview, I forgot the name of the anchor, she said it was only a debate. She said this 8 times in about 5 minutes.
Trying to defend herself.
Sorry?
Trying to defend herself.
Yeah, that was only a debate.
I guess if you're having a debate, you can say anything you want.
Well, then I thought, well, so the debate between her and Mike Pence, does that mean she didn't really mean what she said?
That's where I'm coming from. It's like you can say just whatever to appease whoever during a debate, and then you can get back and say, oh, I didn't mean it. I was just in a debate.
Yeah, exactly. So
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So for some reason, the media have not. Maybe Fox News has. I don't know, but certainly CNN has not picked up on this racial issue relating to Biden.
It's actually been very quiet between them, meaning anything she may have said to him or about him during those times.
So it goes to show what principles guide some of these Democrats when they would seem to be sacrificing their principles, whether they're keeping silent on racism or keeping silent on the issue of sexual harassment, which they were so vocal 2 years ago against Brett Kavanaugh, and keeping silent in relation to Tara Reid. So what values are they defending then?
That's a good one. And that's why we need to talk about things like this. Not to change the subject, but there's another subject I'd like to talk about. You know that we're right in the middle of trying to get another Supreme Court justice after Ruth Ginsburg's death.
Yes.
What are y'all hearing across the pond about the candidate? And by the way, the candidate, believe it or not, talk about living right down the road, lives right down the road from me too.
Oh, Amy Coney Barrett.
Within like 4 miles.
Wow, you're certainly living like your postcode should be 90210. You're living amongst famous people.
Well, and I'm not even in Hollywood. No, but she is from where we are, right here. And so,
Yes.
I mean, what are they telling you? I mean, they have played her every which way but loose right now.
Yeah, if we look at the British media, I think they've been fairly ambivalent, and they certainly have reflected the narrative that she was selected way too early, and the next president, if it is Biden, should have been in position to choose her. That's been the narrative, I think. And in terms of the quality of the candidate, it's been relatively neutral, although I did watch a lot of the hearings, actually, the Senate hearings, and the interviews by Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, which really was a circus, I think. But she did remarkably well. And a feminist by the name of, I forgot her first name, but her surname is Howe. She wrote a very, very offensive comment against Amy Coney Barrett, saying that she has a car clown or clown car vagina, meaning that she's had so many babies, it's a big family, which goes against the feminist narrative. And when I watched her answering questions, pretty rigid questions from the Democrat senators, I thought that compared to Brett Kavanaugh, she did not have a car clown vagina. She had balls of steel.
Yes, she does.
And the way she answered questions was very pristine, precise, and she was very composed. And I think she gave the Democrat senators a good run for their money. And I thought Kamala Harris, being a former prosecutor, would really tie her down the way she did with Brett Kavanaugh. And you may remember Brett Kavanaugh, was dithering a little under her cross-examination. But I was very impressed with Amy Coney Barrett. And also, I was quite disappointed with the attack on her faith as well, coming from a Catholic background. And obviously, personal beliefs, I'm sure she'll be pro-life, and, cross-examining her. So I think I have been impressed with Amy Coney Barrett. Donald Trump chose a very, very good candidate. But it's a shame that the fact that she was a very, very young woman reaching that high level in the Supreme Court was overlooked. There should have been a plus point for women's progress. And
right.
It was really disheartening to see how feminists were attacking her.
It is. Like I said, she's from this area, and so we get a little bit more, of course, information than you will over there. Yeah. But they have portrayed her every which way from loose, from being inside a cult, a religious cult, to, but this is a woman that has adopted 2 African-American children besides her own children. So this is a biracial family.
Well, she must be one of those white colonizers trying to instill white supremacy values to those 2 children.
Oh, we can start there, but I know when people start talking about that, I get a little bit angry because I have a daughter that's in a biracial relationship, and I have a biracial grandbaby. Actually, I have, out of 7 grandbabies, 5 biracial grandbabies.
Well, congratulations.
Not one time did my daughter say, "Oh, I'm going to white colonize him," or "I want to do this." What? That just drives me nuts.
I think it's a mark of desperation that they'll try and pinpoint anything just to take down a formidable candidate. Now, with Donald Trump, I'm not surprised why they want to take him down. I understand the arguments, but with Amy Coney Barrett, it's been very, very bizarre, really, really bizarre.
Well, what's your next book going to be about?
Well, actually, whilst I was waiting to speak with you, I've written this word
It's brand new.
down here.
This is brand new even to me, the publisher.
I was just doodling here. It says unprecedented. So, as
Oh,
in not unprecedented, as in the word president, President Trump, President Obama.
okay.
Unprecedented, which means the amount of onslaught, the negativity that Donald Trump has faced, I think is unprecedented in recent American history. I mean, George Bush, I know, I'm a great fan of George W. Bush. I know he had it fairly bad with him mangling words.
Nothing like what Trump faced, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so I'd like to know why. I mean it's partly Trump's fault for attacking the media in the first place, saying it's all fake news, and obviously I understand why the media are turning on him when they really shouldn't be. They should be doing journalism, objectivity, but really trying to understand the psychology of this anti-Trump paranoia. I don't know if it's paranoia, but certainly a hatred there is, and I'm really trying to examine why this has happened. So that might be the title of my next book.
Well, I love that. And again, folks, I'm Dr. Mel, and I have had the pleasure of visiting with Hassan Ali Imam. Did I butcher it again?
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely fine.
Yay! And his book, United States of Anger. And again, I highly recommend that anyone that's watching this, go pick up this book. You will not be sorry that you did. It is fabulous. I want to thank you for coming on to interview with me with Dr. Smel's Message. It has been a delight to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Bala. It's been an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you.
Till next time, I'm out.
Thank you. Bye.